How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com and your favorite co-host over at the Locked On Colts podcast. We are back with yet another draft debrief video breaking down the Colts 2026 NFL draft in excruciating detail. We're going to dive into Ohio State pass rusher Caden Curry in today's video. And Caden Curry is another player where initially I was a little skeptical with this pick. I didn't really love the first bits of film I saw from him. Very good effort and very good run defense, which I think are very commendable aspects to have in a young player, but you don't really see the high level traits that project to being like a very good NFL player by any means. But the more you watch him, the more you realize that his effort is not just at a very high level, it's at like an uncanny level. Like it's a crazy level of effort, really fun run game. Prowess there as a player. And also, I do think he found some ways to win in college despite not having the longest arms or the greatest measurables or anything like that, by using quick hands and using a pass rush plan to soften edges and find some ways to win off the edge and on the interior as a pass rusher. So, Caden Curry, I still think the projection for him is more so of a special teamer, of a bottom of the roster guy that gets you a couple snaps and gives you some high quality effort and just drive in those snaps. But that's a good role for a player to have in the NFL, right? Like that's something that I think a lot of teams should be targeting on day 3 of the NFL draft. Like this isn't a typical day 3 edge rusher pick like George Gums Jr., where we're banking on the traits. We'll see if this works out, and the guy could wash out of the league within 2 to 3 seasons. I don't really see that with Caden Curry. I don't see him ever really washing out of the league due to like just not like grinding and not finding a role for himself. Caden Curry will almost certainly find a place in the NFL. I think he's going to be around for a while in some capacity. So yeah, it's not the highest like upside pick that the Colts have made, but sometimes you need a high floor type player to round out your roster and give you some good depth out there. So that's what I think Caden Curry is, and I think he's going to be a fun player to watch. Local kid here, obviously in Indy for the next couple seasons. Real quick, let's dive into some pro comps before we dive into the film. And the first two that really came to mind, and one of them's a little bit cheap, but first one we're going to say is Trevis Gibson, just a bottom of the roster guy who's bounced around the league a little bit, who's provided some pretty good upside and depth for a lot of teams over the last couple years. I just see a similar role like that for Curry in the NFL. But when I was watching a lot of 2023 and 2024 Ohio State film, and then getting into 2025, watching Caden Curry, I think Curry reminds me a lot of the guy he kind of replaced at Ohio State, which is Jack Sawyer. I know that he has a little bit more interior versatility than Sawyer really had, but just that play style that both guys play at where, yeah, it's not the greatest traits, but just the energy, the effort, the run defense, the ability to play off ball and actually look pretty comfortable in space as well. I do see a lot of Jack Sawyer in Caden Curry's game, just at a slightly different like body type and mass. But without further ado, let's dive into this film and talk about the pros and cons of Caden Curry in this draft debrief episode for the Indianapolis Colts. Caden Curry offers the Colts a pretty good baseline with his run defense. I think he's pretty good in support from the backside in terms of just his energy and his hustle to the backside of plays. I think he takes on pullers fairly well, operates well against tight ends. So if you want to block him with a tight end, typically he's able to shed those blocks and make plays on the running back. And you even see some good moments where he sets the edge against offensive linemen as well. Has good, again, energy at all times, like I said in my video a couple days ago. So you can see the makings of a really good run defender with Caden Curry on his Ohio State film. We're going to look at a couple of those clips here. Here he's going to take on a puller from Washington out in space. I think, yeah, the center's going to get out and try to kick him out of the play. He doesn't take it on the same way that George Gums Jr. does in a lot of these pulls, where George Gums Jr. is like getting as low as possible, just chopping the hell out of these guys trying to block him, establishing that outside position with great violence. Curry's a lot more sturdy, a lot more steady as a defensive end, so he can just more so take it on with his natural power, holds that point of attack, does a good job of getting his eyes back to the running back, tracking back to the football, and getting that tackle for a very short gain on the play. Another play here against Illinois, they're going to try to block him on the backside with just the tight end. And as the running back tries to bounce this back to Caden Curry's side, again, where he's one-on-one with the tight end. He doesn't just stagnate with the tight end. He doesn't just take the stalemate block and just hold on there and hope for someone else to rally to the tackle. He's getting his head up. He's finding the ball carrier. He's locating the ball carrier. Actually does a really nice job of punching at this football. If the running back was just a little less assuming, like if the running back did not see him at the corner of his eye, this is probably a fumble, because Curry does a really good job of just punching in here with the looking for forcing the fumble. Running back covers up though, and it's a short gain on the play for Illinois as well. Here we see him taking on a block out in space. I think this is undrafted free agent Riley Malman from Wisconsin, trying to kick him out on this block here. Trying to just turn those hips, get Caden Curry out of the play, and provide that lane for the running back. Curry does a really good job of stacking that block, ripping through with his hands with really good power, getting off that block, and then tracking back to the running back and getting that tackle for a short gain. So this is not the most common thing that you see from Curry on film. Like, he's not always going to shed blocks like this in the run game, but I think you see enough of it in his college film to where, you know, you can project it out going forward. Like, if he just continues to get stronger, going to the NFL level, you can see him being more consistent in that area. You see enough of the flashes where I think that he can be this type of run defender at the NFL level. But what is consistent are what we saw in those first two clips, the way he takes on pullers, the way he just dominates tight ends. I think you're going to get that pretty consistently from him. Speaking of dominating tight ends, though, this is, I believe this is a 4th and 1 play from Rutgers. They were going for it on their own territory early in the season. When you're going against Ohio State, you have to take some risk, I guess. And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to block Caden Curry here. Let me draw it out here. They're trying to get this tight end just to cut off Caden Curry here, right? This tight end doesn't really have to, like, block him fully, like get your hands inside and drive him off the ball or anything like that. Like, they're not trying to ask anything crazy of this tight end, but basically just beat him to the spot right here and give our running back space to just crash inside and fall forward for a first down. And Curry knows this, right? He knows that that is what they're trying to do here. You know, they're not going to try to do this like toss play on 4th and 1. They're not going to try like to throw it against Ohio State on 4th and 1. So the way that Curry and Ohio State's playing this is Curry's entire job is to beat this tight end across the face. He's going to have this spill help defense right here. So even if this running back tries to bounce it, you're going to have this help defender there to close it off. So Curry's entire job here is cross this tight end's face, be disruptive. If the running back runs into you, great. You get a tackle for a loss and you get off the field. If the running back bounces it, then you're bouncing him right to an open, unblocked defender, and you get off the field that way too. So Curry has to beat this tight end to the spot though, and you see the urgency, you see the explosion where he does fire off the football, beat across the face of the tight end, and as that running back is trying to look for an exit lane because the middle is just so clogged up, he tries to bounce back. Curry's able to get hands on him, free defender closes it up. Ohio State gets off the field and gets the ball on a big 4th and 1 stop early in the game. And then yet another play against Rutgers as well. He's going to stand up his blocker. They're going to be doing a run blitz here. So when we look at the call, I think this is Arvell Reese is going to be shooting in this gap. We're going to be filling to the outside. Curry is just trying to contain, just be on this blocker, make sure you're holding that gap, and then afterwards you can shed and make a play on the ball. Curry does a really good job not getting displaced off the football by the left tackle, holding that block, getting his head up, then shedding, and then establishing his position as the running back tries to cut back against the grain, against the blitz where Arvell Reese crashed in. He's able to get that tackle in the backfield for a loss on the play. So, yeah, I mean, Caden Curry, like, I could have put 20 more clips in here because I think the run defense is good, but I think these couple clips kind of show you that wide variety of what he brings in run defense, where you get a guy like this who can take on lead blockers, hold that edge and track back to the football and make plays in the open field on running backs. You get a player that can also take on tight ends quite effectively and isn't going to just be washed out of the play by tight end. Like, he's never going to be someone accused of lacking the effort or the energy to beat a tight end in the run game. So just want to dispel that if anyone's ever going to think that about him. But you also see these flashes as well of beating offensive tackles while holding that outside contain, winning that half-man relationship, but also tracking back to the football and making plays on the ball. You see enough flashes of that to be positive. And then also there's some impact run defensive snaps like this one on 4th down where he's crossing the face of the tight end and making a play in the backfield. And this one here, I think this one's like a 1st and 10, so not as big an impact play, but holding that block, shedding that block with good hands and quickness, and making that play in the backfield. So there's a lot of good traits to build upon in Caden Curry's run defense. I think that gives him such a stable floor going forward with the Indianapolis Colts, and basically just his NFL career. He's always going to have a place in this league if you're going to defend the run like this. And also, you got to like that where he's playing across like different positions too. You got wide 9, you got 5 tech, you got 7 tech, you get the 4 tech right here. Like, he's going to be in a lot of positions and make plays on the football. So you get that versatility that you're looking for. You get the energy, you get the power, you get the ability to track the football. I think Caden Curry projects pretty well as a good run defender at the NFL level. And in the 6th round, getting that, I think that's, pretty noteworthy for a team like the Indianapolis Colts. Now, we're going to talk about the ups and downs of Caden Curry as a pass rusher for the rest of this video, but one thing that I think he's done really well at Ohio State to develop his skill set, whatever that skill set really is, again, we'll talk about that to close out this video, but to develop his skill set is just to have these quick hands and a plan of attack on almost every single rush. Those 2 factors alone are how he's able to win without having the greatest traits in the world as a pass rusher. So what we see on a lot of these clips is just that urgency, and also, again, watch the hands on display here, where here he gets into a situation with this offensive tackle where he has a little bit of a two-way go. I know going inside is a little tough with where the other linemen are, but he does establish that position on the offensive tackle, and then he's able to just use his hands and quickly break the hands of the left tackle. So as he breaks back to the outside, offensive tackle's trying to use his left hand to stymie that rush, get his hand in there and just slow Caden Curry down. But Curry times his hands really well, times his counter really well. So as that hand reaches out for the offensive tackle, he's able to break that hand, win that outside shoulder against the offensive tackle, and turn the corner. Not with the greatest bend, but again, once you win that break that hand and you're able to win that quick corner right there, you don't have to have like all-world Von Miller type of bend, because you're already softening that edge and making it easier for yourself to get around the outside and get that pressure on the quarterback. Another play here against Wisconsin, we're going to see him crossing the face of the offensive tackle, because I believe Ohio State's bringing an outside blitz here, and we're going to see him just break the hands really well here, right? Break the hands, break across the hands, get off there with just a good swipe down, and then he's going to work against the guard, and again, we're going to get the little swim underneath, right? We're going to get him just swimming underneath, or I guess ripping through underneath, and getting past that guard as well, and getting the sack on the play. So you see that his hands are pretty good, especially for a guy who, he's never had the longest arms, right? And this is something that's just going to be a constant throughout his NFL career. So when you don't have these super long arms, it's going to be hard for you to make first contact as a pass rusher, right? So a lot of times you're going to have the opposition making that first contact and having that point of disruption against you. So you have to essentially develop yourself to be a good counter player, a player that can work with the opponent's hands on you, and knowing how to break those hands, get freedom from those hands when they are grabbing you. So here, again, both these offensive linemen make first contact with him, but he does a really good job of breaking the hands of them, either through ripping through or on the first one swiping down, and then making his way to the quarterback on the play for the sack. Really nice stuff there. Against Indiana, he absolutely abused, I believe this is Indiana's backup right tackle, or maybe it's their starter who was injured. I know I saw in the game that the starter was injured. I can't remember if he fought through it or if he was the backup in this one, but he absolutely abused this player all game long. It just wasn't a fair matchup. And you see with Caden Curry, does a really good job, again, of just softening that edge a little bit. Like, he's not going to shoot out here from the wide 9 and just try to win with speed to the outside, right? He's going to engage with the right tackle on this play. And once he's engaged, though, he does a really nice job of hitting the hands, basically jabbing the chest of the offensive tackle and then ripping underneath, right? So really good footwork here to establish position, get the offensive tackle to stop their feet, then work the feet back to the outside to soften that angle and make the angle a good trajectory to the quarterback, and then ripping through, getting past the offensive tackle, and then tracking down the quarterback for a sack on the play. Really nice stuff from Caden Curry there. And then one more against that same right tackle here for Indiana. We're going to see him working to the outside, and look at how well he times this two-hand swipe here. So if you're going to use the two-hand swipe, you have to time it for right when the offensive tackle is shooting their hands out, right? Because if you're just hitting air here, if you're not making contact, especially with that outside hand, but ideally you want to make contact with both hands, right? So there's nothing to slow you down as a pass rusher. So what we see here is as that right tackle shoots the hands out, shoots it out, we see Caden Curry timing up that two-hand swipe to make sure that he can win that outside edge against him. And then from there, he's got the ideal angle to close in on Mendoza and get another sack on the play as well. So, Caden Curry, again, doesn't have the greatest traits in the world, which we're going to talk about to close out this video. But one way that he was able to get 12 sacks at Ohio State last year was because he does have these quick hands. He does have these quick hands and the ability to counter. You can tell that he's probably done some work with like martial arts in the past. I've talked to a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen who don't have the longest arms that have worked with like martial arts, because you have to find ways to win without making first contact, without being able to establish your power at the point of attack. You have to be able to react to contact coming your way. And you can tell with Curry that he has really good reactive movements as a defensive lineman. He knows how to break free once he is corralled by these offensive linemen. And again, the 12 sacks, while even though some of them were like unblocked sacks and just like coverage sacks, 12 sacks aren't a complete fluke at the college level. You know, you're not going to have all 12 be coverage sacks. And I think you see that with Curry, where there are really good flashes, there are really good moments where he showcases these quick hands, these counters, and the ability to break what offensive linemen want to do. So if Caden Curry's going to win as a pass rusher at the next level, it's going to be with his quick hands, his pass rush plan, and just his overall development as a player coming out that had to work his way up for snaps at Ohio State. So there is something to work with as a pass rusher with Caden Curry, and that's why he was able to have the career sack numbers he had, or at least the final season sack numbers that he had at Ohio State. One thing I really liked about watching Caden Curry's film is just how much Ohio State used him in these different roles, right? Like, I'm going to try to put up some pictures here, but I mean, you would see him just play all over the place on film. He would play anywhere from a wide 9, which is going to be all the way outside. You would see him play some 3 tech. You would see 4-eye. You would see 6 tech, 5 tech, even inside as a nose tackle as well, right? So Ohio State played him all over the formation on their defense. They let him just kind of roam and be kind of that versatile chess piece for them, kind of like a Tyquan Lewis was for the Colts the last couple, I mean, I don't even want to say last couple seasons, I guess like last 9 seasons with the Colts. But yeah, like Caden Curry was all over the place for Ohio State, and I was pretty intrigued with the pass rushing upside as an interior rusher. When we go back to his 2024 film, which is this one against Michigan State, they used him a lot as like a 3 tech on passing downs. So kind of, again, like the Tyquan Lewis, Adetomiwa, Adebore type player. We even saw Dayo Dangbo do that a lot when he was with the Colts, where they would move a defensive end inside to like that defensive tackle spot and be kind of that speed rusher. And what we see with Caden Curry is, like, again, the quick hands are just his best attribute as a pass rusher, but I think you just see them like shine so much more when he's rushing on the inside. So here he wins with a big time swim, and even though the slide is coming his way, right, you get the swim move, you get him powering through the center, and then you get a nice little spin move as well, right back to the quarterback, track him down and get that QB hit on the play. So I just think it looks so much quicker and faster when he is rushing from the interior. Here, this is when we're going back to 2025. A lot of Ohio State's, like, I want to say a lot of like their third and long like pass situation rush packages were 2 defensive ends on the outside, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles mugging over top of the guards, or in this situation over top the tackle, and then they would have Caden Curry be just face up on the center to give him that center matchup. And I was intrigued, man. Like, I was really intrigued. Like, here, you know, he's slanting down across the line, right? So he's moving over gaps and getting on that left guard, or over on that right guard, and then you get that quick swipe back to the inside, right? So guard is trying to feel him out. He's kind of showing that, okay, he's going to move with this and maybe be a stunt on this play, but Curry is able to track back inside, win with that hand over move, track back across and get to that quarterback. It would have been a sack in the NFL, but in college, it's just him falling down on his own there, and get that quarterback down in the backfield. Another play here against Texas, and again, you just see, I'm intrigued by the interior rushes, right? So again, just a little swim move here over the center, and then he's able to work back across, work through the center and the guard. Guard doesn't feel that rush out super well to help his center out, but he's able to beat that center pretty cleanly, right? Nice little swim move, work up and get that hit on the quarterback and force the bad throw from Arch Manning. So even though there's not a ton of clips where he got like true like one-on-one or even one-on-two kind of rushes, like, again, when you're the nose tackle, when you're going to have like these 2025 ones, right, where he's the nose tackle where they're potentially just going to bring like 3 guys, you're going to have multiple offensive linemen eyeing you, and you don't want to just be too aggressive here because you could leave an escape lane for the quarterback. But when they really like unleashed him as an interior rusher, I thought we saw some pretty good things from Caden Curry. I almost want to say, like, I'd be intrigued by making him like a 3-tech in the future. Like, I know he's only like 255, 260, so that's a bit light for a 3-tech. Maybe if you can get him up to like a 275-ish, 270, you can have him as like that Dayo Adangbo, where he's a defensive end early and he moves inside on passing downs. But I think this is where I was most intrigued with him as a pass rusher. Seeing him rush from the interior, seeing the quick hands on display. Some of the limitations don't really plague him too much when he's rushing inside, because there's not like this need to bend the corner and really stress the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle. So I think that you kind of hide some of the limitations and you also play into his biggest strengths. And honestly, he's a much better athlete rushing inside, right? Because if you're rushing against guards rather than tackles, you have to be like this super elite athlete rushing from the edge with your bend and with your explosion to really gain that outside edge in that corner. When you're rushing from the inside, like the level of athlete that Caden Curry is probably well above average, right? Like, it's a pretty good athlete, given that's with him being around like 260. So who knows what it looks like at like 275, but I think a lot of this projects so much better if he's like an interior rusher or like a 3-technique type of player. I don't know how much the Colts get him at 3-tech this year, because they are just stacked at that position with DeForest Buckner, Adetomiwa Adebawore, and Kobe Wooden, all being guys that are going to play that position quite a bit. So I don't know how much Caden Curry gets there this year, but I wouldn't hate for its long-term development to be a guy like a Danico Autry, like a Tyquan Lewis type, where he plays edge early, you get him down inside on third downs, and that's probably where he's at his best as a pass rusher. I think that's where you could see the most out of Caden Curry. So while this isn't like the longest segment here on this episode, I'm really intrigued by his potential as like an interior rusher on passing downs, and I really wanted to make note of that in this video here for you guys. Now, we really have to sit back and ask the question, how does a 12-sack performer at Ohio State, who is also really good in run defense, right? Like we talked about in the very first segment, how does that type of player fall to the 6th round of the NFL draft? And at the end of the day, to be successful in the NFL, a lot of it comes down to traits. When we talk about traits, we talk about athletic ability, we talk about just natural physical traits like longer arms and a bigger frame and stuff like that. And unfortunately with Caden Curry, he is lacking in a lot of those like true NFL traits. It's actually fascinating to see that he got drafted even as high as he did with kind of the traits that he has, right? He's got historically short arms and wingspan. He's not the most like athletic, like bendy or explosive player off the snap either. And you do see that on occasion at the college level really hamper him as a pass rusher, especially when he's rushing off the edge, right? Because when you're rushing off the edge as a pass rusher, you have to have something that can threaten offensive tackles to the outside, right? Whether it's going to be your explosion off the snap that really gets them on their horse to cut you off, and then you open up the ability to cut inside, whether it is your long arms that makes that first contact with them and then sets up the ability to swipe and get around the outside, whether it's your bend, right? Just being able to make that first contact, play through contact balance, turn around the edge and get to the quarterback, or just your raw power to run through their chest, drive that player into the quarterback and get that sack. And I don't know if Caden Curry really has any of that at an NFL level to consistently threaten offensive tackles off the edge. We're going to see on this clip here against Washington, right? He's trying to get to that outside corner. And now he is rushing a little bit wide here because you're trying to get that one-on-one with the offensive tackle. But once that tackle makes first contact with him, because again, he's got those shorter arms, there's just not really a recovery point for him, right? There's no real way for him to go at that point, because that for those two hands, the offensive tackle does a good job locating them on that shoulder. So Curry can't really use this right arm to separate. The left arm is just too far away to really break both those hands. So he tries to throw this like last-ditch effort spin move, but it just kind of becomes a really stagnant rush for him where he doesn't really make much headway on the offensive tackle. Another one here, he's rushing from a wide 9 against Washington, and I think this one really showcases just the limitations with the bend. He tries to get to the outside. Actually, it's a pretty good rush from here, right? He breaks that outside hand from the offensive tackle and is able to work around the corner. So from this situation, you're actually looking at a pretty favorable vantage point for him to just bend that corner, get around to the quarterback, but he doesn't really have that NFL level bend. So as he tries to bend the corner, he's stiff. I know his foot slips on the logo, which is a constant thing, but even then, I don't think he's really going to get much bend on this play. Maybe he gets out like that wide, but Yeah, it's just not much bend there in his game, and that does provide limitations to winning to the outside. Here against UCLA, we're going to see him again from that wide 9 spot trying to beat this offensive tackle. And here, he's trying to break the hands yet again because that's just his way to win. But quick hands, break the hands. But he just kind of gets swallowed up by the offensive tackle, right? Because the offensive tackle can just get around him a little bit of a hold with that backside hand. But he doesn't really threaten this tackle much. And ideally, you'd like to see a guy where if he can get those hands inside like this, he can really drive that tackle back and play with some power. But I don't think he has much of a power profile either at this moment. He's more of a finesse rusher with his quick hands. Like here, for instance, he's trying to win with that bull rush, right? You want to showcase just that power, that ability to drive an offensive tackle back. So you can kind of set up just your quick hands, right? Because then the offensive tackle's back on his heels, and you can win with swipes and the rips that we saw earlier. So here he's trying to win with that power to set up moves for later in the game, and he just doesn't really get much drive on the offensive tackle at all, right? Like the power profile is really not there, and if you're gonna be more of a finesse rusher, you've got to have some bend, you've got to have some explosion, and I don't really see that in his film, right? I don't love the projection of him winning as a rusher off the edge at the NFL level. I think really his only way that he can do it is like from what we saw earlier, where he wins with quick hands early, has a softened edge, and then there he can just kind of run in that straight line to the quarterback. But it's going to be hard to get those situations against NFL offensive tackles where college offensive tackles, yeah, they're going to stop their feet a lot more. They're going to give you those softer edges and let you turn the corner on them. In the NFL, it's just not that easy, man. Offensive tackles are a lot stronger, a lot faster, a lot more explosive. So you're going to see a lot more reps like this, I think, with him rushing off the edge. I just don't like the projection out there much for him. And at his size, I don't think you can move him inside too much at the current rate. So there certainly is a bit of a developmental curve with him on what you can do with him as a pass rusher, right? Like I think you can get him some inside reps early on, but I don't really love the projection of him rushing off the edge at the NFL level. I don't know where he's going to really win at a consistent rate as a pass rusher. So with Curry, I think you get a good floor of a player who can defend the run, who's going to give you crazy effort, like we mentioned in yesterday's or 2 days ago's video on here as well. So you're going to get the run defense and the effort in the special teams as well. He has like 3 block punts in his college career. So you're going to get all that from him. You're going to get a player who I think has some intrigue rushing at the inside in the NFL, but the reason why he fell as late as he did is because I don't really know if there's much of a calling card for beating offensive tackles as a pass rusher at his current size and traits. So I think that's one thing you're just going to have to manage with the rest of his career. It might give him like a lower ceiling, but I think you do have a pretty good floor with him being like a consistent NFL producer at the next level. So this might not be like a swing for the fences type of pick with Caden Curry because I just don't know if it's ever going to be like that home run swing with him. But I think you get a guy that you feel comfortable rostering for a long time. I think he's going to give you everything you need as a run defender and as a special teamer. And if there is any like upside to him as a pass rusher, I think it's more so rushing from that inside where he can use the quick hands, use some of his natural quickness against guards. I do think that that's probably the better avenue for him. But yeah, Caden Curry, not the George Gums like swing for the fences type of traits pick, but just a really solid player that I think is going to be an NFL guy for like 5 to 10 years. Like if you're betting on any 6th-round pick to make it in this league, a guy like Caden Curry makes a lot of sense just because of the baseline stuff that he gives you. But will he ever be a star? Probably not. But you can still make a really good career in the NFL with not being a star. So Caden Curry certainly warmed up to him a lot watching his film, just watching the effort and the energy on display. And I think he's going to be a valuable piece of the Colts depth chart for the duration of his rookie season and hopefully past that as well, being the local kid. So Caden Curry, all gas, no breaks for sure, all the time with him. I think he's going to be a fun watch in training camp, and hopefully he can give some impact plays on special teams and as a run defender in 2026 and beyond.